Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It's a beautiful sunny day here, first week of July, Northeast Ohio. And as you can see, this looks quite a bit different from the last time I've done the video here last year. Taking down a lot of trees, put up some trellises. I still need to hang the wires for the different berries. Got blackberries, raspberries, loganberries, marionberries, pretty much any type of cross that you could imagine, as well as I think 3 different kinds of Asian pears, a couple different kinds of peaches. I've got 5 different kinds of apples that I've thrown in over there. Some plums, pluot, I think, as well as a couple different jujubes. So I'm working on the homestead. It's been a very busy spring, so sorry I haven't had time to do an update video, but here's the fig row. As you can see, I've extended it all the way up to the end of the fence line here. And this was literally just done yesterday with these kind of mini raised beds. I think this is really going to help them to get that heat earlier in the spring. It's not going to do much for me now, other than it's a place to hold the compost that I've put on top of these guys. So let me run through the figs here and show you guys what I've got planted here new. So this is first one right at the top is a Dalmatier, however you want to pronounce it, tomato. These are all new. I literally got these in the ground, some of them less than a month ago. So they're not obviously that large right now. They're just getting their foothold. They usually take about a month after you put them in the ground. They kind of stall out, and that's when they're just setting their roots. So this is known to be a really good northern climate fig, large green berry type. And then next one down, this is Dark Syrian from Bass. I've had this one in the pot last year, and it's a good performer. I've heard that this is one of the more cold hardy figs, but we'll see how it does. This one is Yellow Greek. So Bill over at Off the Beaten Path said that this is one of his better performers, and it's a newer tree for him. So I'm excited to get that one going here. It's got a little bit of FMV right now, but I think it'll work its way out, as they always do. This is Malone. So this was one of my best performers from last year as far as fruit set. And you can see, I mean, this thing's pretty crazy. It literally almost ripened 2 main crops last year for me as a first year cutting. So I'm excited to put this one in the ground, and we'll just see how hardy it is. It's really similar to Violette de Bordeaux, but as I said, it's much more productive, so it's a good tree. This is Grigio. So I don't know much about this other than it's an Italian version of a fig that a lot of people are kind of raving about. So really nice berry flavor, so I'm excited to try that one. This is Campaneri. So I had a rough time getting these to take root. I don't know if many other people have experienced that as well. I think it's usually the ones that I try harder on are the ones that I kind of fail. You just try to root them and they will succeed with a less bit of work. But anyway, nice young tree there. Here's Bergen Unknown. So threw this one in the ground just because it is such a healthy, good grower for me. I've got one in the pot as well that's doing even better than that. And here's Italian 258, same as Genovese Nero AF. New tree to me. We'll see how it does. Everybody has that one basically in their top 5, almost everybody I know. And here's LSU Hollier. My friend Steve sent me some cuttings of this. He raved about it being one of his better cold hardy figs, so we'll see how that one does for me. And then here is Condi. So a good way to describe this tree would be improved hardy Chicago. This is like maybe my favorite tree that I've had from last year. It's super productive off of the first year. I got quite a few figs off of it. The one that I have in the pot from last year has more figs than any other tree I have, so I'm excited for that one. It should be able to ripen them in ground after freezing down. So here's Smith, just an extra rooted cutting that I had from my tree last year. That was the one that I had to dig up from the moles getting into the roots. And then next one down here, this is Black Celeste. This thing has taken forever to start to show growth, but finally it looks like it's getting set up and it's about to start growing. So here is Thracis aspera. So this is a supposedly one of the most cold hardy figs from Greece. Grows in the Rhodope Mountains, I think is what it is. It's a Adriatic type green berry fig. So we'll see how that one does. Here's Nerucciolo de Elba. So you can see this is quite a bit farther ahead, and it was just from the beginning. I think I started this one maybe even end of November. So this has had plenty of time to get set up. I still don't see any fruit on it yet, but that's pretty normal. And then here was the star from last year. This is the early Adriatic from Bill. This was like the only other rooted cutting that I had from my tree, so see how that one does in the ground, see how early it actually is. And then here's Rosalino. So this one's supposed to be like a much more unique taste. That's kind of what I'm looking for now, is like expanding the taste spectrum. So we'll see how that one does. And then this is the one, this is a lot like Black Celeste. This has just taken forever to get started for me, but it looks like it's finally going to come out of its funk and start putting on some growth. Here is Bacane, or Bacane, I'm not sure how you pronounce this one as well. French fig. A lot of people rave about this one being an early and good fig for northern climate, so we'll see how that does. Here's Azores Dark. So really similar to Condi, it's just a heavy producer, does well early, similar to Hardy Chicago, but definitely better. So we'll see how well that one performs. And then finally back down to the trees from last year, and you can see every single one of them made it. I actually ended up digging up a couple, but I'll explain that once I get down to them. Here is Sister Madeline's Green Greek. I don't see any figs. This little branch right here, you can see it's kind of wonky. It actually got knocked, and I think it broke off down at the bottom, so I should put an air layer on that and just take it off. But this one started pretty early, but then it kind of stalled out. Such a late spring here. It's been so rough, and I'm actually surprised that these all actually made it. So here's Basilica Sica, and it actually had a bigger stem that broke off earlier as well. So let's see, this is Socorro Black, and you can see, I mean, this is just a really healthy tree. It was really slow to put out growth, but man, it's vigorous now. I don't see any fruit. I don't see any fruit coming out on it yet, but like I said, I'm happy with any fruit that any of these trees will put out, and I didn't expect any of them to, with how late our spring was. It was just a really, really unusual year. This is probably the most vigorous tree that I've had, and I've been nonstop plucking out new growth just so that it puts on more growth and maybe puts out figs, but all it wants to do is grow, which is pretty normal for still only it's not even two-year-old tree. But you can see all of these air layers that I've got set. So I'm trying to limit the fruiting branches on pretty much all these trees down to four branches is kind of like a rule of thumb with figs, at least for the shorter climates, to get them to set the fruit early and to actually hold on to it and ripen it. Yeah, so this is one that I actually replaced. This was Noir de Barbentane, and I thought it was dead. I dug it up, and it was alive. It was alive down at the roots, so I put it back in a pot, but I replaced it with Cavalier. This is a really, really good fig. I haven't ripened any yet, but it's just a good grower and a really nice looking tree. So everybody, most people I know have that in their top 5 or 10. So we'll see how well that does. And here's Gentile. This was super late to the show. It was one of my latest to get going. As you can see, it got quite a bit of freeze back down here, and this growth is above ground, but I've got this compost on top, so I won't dig it out. But this thing is so vigorous, and it looks like it's actually putting on fruit buds already. So this could be a really early Adriatic, and we'll just see. I mean, like I said, it's not even 2 years old yet, so we'll have to give it more time to get established. Here's the unknown ice fig, and I've got some double bumps in here, if you can see that. The focus isn't too far out, but that's about to be a fig right there. There's a couple more on here as well, but I mean, it was real close to the ground level that one died back to, but came back as well. Same with Bourgeois Gris, came back just above ground level. This is the one that I said I was going to take out of the ground, but I mean, it's growing fairly well for me now, so I figured I'd just give it a little bit of time, and we'll see how it does, because this does not look like the other Bourgeois Gris that I have. So I might have to just label that one as Bourgeois Gris not, but we'll see once we get some figs. And then this was the other one that I replaced. This was the Pastilliere that just had not been doing anything for me, and could be the spot. I mean, you can see this is the famed Figoin, aka Verdino del Nord from Vladimiro Rocco. Top fig for a lot of people. So I replaced Pastilliere with this one. When I dug it up, I thought it was dead, and it was alive, so I've got it in the pot as well. Here's Rockaway Green. So this is probably the highest growth, at least, that I have from a single tree coming back. Got a good early start, as you can see, survived above the ground there, which is really what you want. I don't see any figs yet, and you know what, my potted version of this, it actually just has like one figlet on it now, so this one just takes some time to get established, so we'll see how that does. But anyway, Ronde Bordeaux, this is really kind of the same story. It just takes really time for it to get established. As you can see, it really is doing well. Almost looks like the green Machurinska, just not quite as much growth, but it did die back pretty close to the ground, but it came back pretty aggressive. So here's Safrawi. This one did survive above the ground to at least a few inches. Pretty slow to put on growth now, but it looks healthy. So Paradiso Bronze VS, kind of the same story, just above the ground it did survive, and it's just pretty slow to put on growth now, so still getting established. Lebanese Green, it's a really pretty leaf. I still haven't had this fig yet. It's supposed to be very good, but just takes some time for that one to produce. So here was my star as far as surviving the winter. This is Colonel Littman's Black Cross, and you can see the size of the growth from last year, and it survived all the way up, pretty close to, I'd say, a foot above the ground. This is maybe 4 or 5 inches of mulch that I have put on here already. I see it, another air layer set there, but no figs. This is a later variety, but it also takes some time to really get established before it starts putting figs out. So looking forward to that one. I know Bill said that was his favorite fig. Not sure if that still stands, but we'll see. So here's Vertil Long. So this is the one that I put in at the end of the season last year. I did not expect it to survive, and sure enough, it survived above ground with the minimal cover that I did. So still getting established before that thing really starts to put out growth. But here's Pellegrino. This is probably my number 2 best survivor of the winter. Pretty neat leaf on this one too, and the fig's really good. I had the fig last year. Sorry I didn't upload the tasting video of it, but you can see it survived pretty well above ground as well. Put out some nice growth. It isn't quite as vigorous as some of the other varieties here, but don't see any fruit on it yet, so we won't get any fruit off of that one this year either. Here is Nero 600. Pretty neat Bordeaux type, really similar to Violette de Bordeaux. It survived pretty well, and it's kind of a monster as far as down here, not really in a tree form, more of like a bush form, but this thing just hasn't put out fruit for me either, so just got to keep waiting for that one. So now we're on to our fruit setters. This is Teramo, and Teramo's kind of survived above the ground, not as nearly as good as the Pellegrino or Colonel Littman's Black Cross, but as you can see, we've got some fruit. This is such an early variety that even if it dies all the way back to ground, it's gonna fruit for you. So this is definitely one that you want to have in your collection if you're a northern grower. So we'll get a couple of those this year. And then here was my best producer, which is quite a surprise. This is Marseille Black VS, which didn't really put on much fruit last year, but it is like loaded this year, even with how much it froze back. This thing has just put on figs. It's probably got pretty close to 20 figlets on it right now. So you can see, I mean, it basically grew back from the ground, and that's how much it's put on since, gosh, I don't know, end of May is really when they started to actually grow here, which is pretty impressive. So those should ripen for me. Here's Improved Celeste. I thought this was actually dead. This, surprisingly, it was so late to get started, but it's really taken off. This probably didn't start growing until, I don't know, second week in June. So late, but I'll just have to try to protect that one a little bit better this winter. And then here's Giacomo Rao. This was like one of my first to wake up, and it stalled out quite a bit. I don't see any figlets on it. Really cool. I like the leaf pattern on this fig a lot. It's just like smooth edged, large big leaves. Haven't tried it yet, but it's a honey type fig. So if you like those, I would suggest this one for a northern climate. And then last down here at the bottom is what I believe to basically just be a Chicago Hardy. This is Sheep's Head Unknown, and really performs exactly like the Chicago Hardy that I used to have. Pretty slow. It's probably going to put on some figs, but I assume that it's too late in the season now for it to even really matter. So there's the in-grounds. I'm up to 45 varieties now. I've got a couple other planted in the ground over on the side of the house. Tacoma Violet, which did survive above the ground without any cover, pretty impressive, as well as Navid Stark Greek. Neither of those have any fruit on them right now. The Tacoma Violet's pretty big, but it just hasn't put on any fruit. It was a rough winter. I hope everybody's having a good start to the summer. We can get the trees coming back. Hopefully this winter won't be as tough, and appreciate y'all watching. Hit the like and subscribe. I've got a lot more content. Keep you guys updated on how the experiment's going here, and thanks for watching.